Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops, and the elders of GMS who rules well. Peace and salutations to the elect. My name is Ainal. The title of this video is Two-State Solution is scheduled to be held in New York in June 2025. And basically, this is going to the fact of, what's happening over in the Middle East, right? The nations, are not agreeing with Israel, and the genocidal acts that they're committing over in their land, and they're saying the only way for peace is a two-state solution, right? They don't want Israel to have their greater Israel, plan that they want. So, to me, this is kind of like breaking news because we'll have to see what happens, right? Because this is something that Israel does not want, right? The JWOs, the individuals that run and rule the world, they don't want to have that two-state solution, right? So let me see if I can grab these precepts here. Let me see. Matter of fact, we'll just get this video. We'll go from there. So two-state solution is scheduled to be held in New York, right? Once again in 2025. I said this is breaking news because, like I said, they don't want that to happen. Basically, they're going to try to do something to prevent this from happening, but we'll see. Anyway, let me just give this video. So the title of this video is If Trump Says No to War and Netanyahu Says Yes, whatever. It's a good video. They go into it. Let's get it.
This is the job of the president of the United States. Maybe Trump's going to get it right on these two huge issues. If he does, I would just suggest make it 3 out of 3 because the same applies for Palestine. What we need for peace, and the whole world is saying it, except for Netanyahu and the Israel lobby, is we need a state of Palestine living alongside a state of Israel.
All right. So he said for peace, you need a state of Israel alongside the state of Palestine, right? The scriptures say in First Thessalonians, we'll give it right here, 5 and 3, it says, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape, right? So, this cruel Lord, pursuant to Isaiah 19, who is DJ Trump, he has come in, and so far all he has said is what? Peace and safety, trying to make things better. That was his whole goal. But so far all he has done is brought complete hell to this. So why this could be important, because this could be, they could have a sit down over here on this event, and they could say the only solution is, this event. And then, they could lie and agree, that being, Benjamin Netanyahu, a Jew, and Donald Trump, they could lie and agree and say, okay, cool, we're going to go ahead and do that. And then ultimately what? Israel could either just attack, unexpectedly, or they could plan together and attack, because at least the flock will draw them out. Babylon the Great to war, right? This is Jeremiah 50 and 45. So Jeremiah 50 and 45, it says, therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord Yahweh that he have taken against Babylon, which is America, right? It says in his purposes that he have proposed against the land of Chaldeans, America. Again, it says, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. Least of the flock is talking about the 1948ers, right? These JWOs, the small hats over in the land of Israel, which became a state, right? That's the area they're in. And basically it says, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. So some way, shape, or form, Israel is going to draw America to war, which we're in a time now where that has already happened, right? Because you have Ukraine, the leader of Ukraine is supposedly a JWO, right? Zelensky. And that war is ongoing. America is like trying to fix it, and that's going on with Russia, right? Which goes into the greater war, which is World War III, right? That's what we're talking about. But, just looking at this one situation, the nations are coming against Babylon the Great. We can grab that real quick, Habakkuk 2. So I think this is kind of like a big deal, but we'll see what happens. This Habakkuk 2 and 4, it says, "Behold, his soul, which is lifted up, is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith." It says, "Yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people." It says, "Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that laid himself with clay, which is dead." Right? And this is talking about America, right? Esau, Edom, and just taking up land and trying to continue to grow, and the people, saying, how long can this continue? So going back to the title, which dude was going to mention, there is gonna a meeting, event is going to be held. Two-state solution event is going to be held in New York in June 2025. Let me see, I got it right here somewhere. Right here. All right, so it says United Nations meeting June 17, 2025 about Palestine. And that dude is going to mention it. It says a high-level international conference for the peaceful settlement of the question of Palestine and the implementation of the two-state solution is scheduled to be held in New York in June 2025. It says while June 17, 2025 is not explicitly mentioned, the conference is set for June 2025. The conference aims to establish a clear path towards a peaceful resolution of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, specifically focus on the implementation of a two-state solution. Right, so the nation, which he's going to explain, the nations are coming together now to say the only way for peace is this two-state solution. But Revelations 12 and 12 says, what? This could be a deadline for them, if they having this major event, Revelations 12 and 12, it says, "Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them." It says, "Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time." So, we're watching. This could be one of those events that trigger something. We'll see. And matter of fact, what day is this? Oh no, May 1st is the end of that. No, May 19th. So anyway, yeah. So the Esau's are coming out with great wrath because they have but a short time. And like I said, this event could be, something that triggers something. Because if they come together and they actually say, yeah, we're gonna agree on this, we'll see what happens. This dude here is saying that Trump is America is the only one stopping them from saying, yeah, the two-state solution. Let's see.
This is the whole story for peace in the Middle East. Actually.
Is that a pipe dream, Jeff, or is it potentially realistic?
Not only is it realistic, there's one vote only that separates us today from peace, and that is the U.S. veto in the UN Security Council that blocked Palestine becoming the 194th UN member state.
Because of the iron grip that the Israel lobby has on American foreign policy. You've just explained that.
Precisely. It's one vote. It's our vote. Israel has no veto over a state of Palestine. The International Court of Justice ruled last year that Israel's boundaries are the boundaries of the 4th of June, 1967, period.
Right. And that goes into a lot because, you go back all the way to the Balfour Declaration and basically, Israel becoming a state of Palestine, right? And them setting it up and then the wars and them, taking more lands. It goes into a lot. But I have those maps here, right? So it says Israel's borders explained in maps. It says, so keep in mind that this became a state, and they had to mark out the borders. But our land is all of this. The land of the land promised to our forefathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is all of this. But they made this part a state. This little part right here. It says more than 75 years after Israel declared statehood, its borders are yet to be entirely settled. See, that's the point. That's why the scriptures say the land of Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. right? And basically, we have a whole bunch of heathen over there in our land, right? And including the Edomites in the land of Israel, you know, which all of this would be the land of Israel, right? That was promised to us. It says, so read this again. It says, more than 75 years after Israel declared statehood, its borders are yet to be entirely settled. Wars, treaties, and occupation mean the shape of the Jewish state has changed over time, and in parts is still undefined. Here is a series of maps explaining why. So, the borders are undefined, right? So let's read this. It says, the land which would become Israel was for centuries part of the Turkish-ruled Ottoman Empire after World War I and the collapse of the empire territory known as Palestine. The portion of which west of the river Jordan was also known as the land of Israel by Jews. See? Let me see. This is the portion of which west of the river Jordan was also known as the land of Israel by the Jews. Yeah, because that's our land. And I got a map. I got a map that. Hold on. It says was marked out and assigned to Britain to administer by the victorious Allied powers soon after endorsed by the League of Nations. So these devils took our lands, and they over there trying it down, now they fighting over it, And that's why Israel has this greater Israel plan, right, to try to fulfill what the scriptures say about our land. It says the terms of the mandate entrusted Britain with establishing in Palestine a national home for the Jewish people, so long as doing so did not prejudice. Let me grab this word.
Prejudice.
All right, let me see. It says, so long as doing so did not prejudice the civil and religious rights of non-Jewish communities there. Let's see what that means. Because they breaking that law completely. Back it up. It says a favoring or dislike of something without good reason. Unfriendly feelings directed against an individual, a group, or race, right? That's exactly what Israel is doing now. I'm talking about these JWOs to the surrounding heathen around them in our land. Grab these. So that was that Balfour Declaration, right? Which it says the terms of the mandate entrusted Britain with establishing in Palestine a national home for the Jewish people, so long as doing so did not prejudice the civil and religious rights of non-Jewish communities there. So they're supposed to come there and be kosher, right? They're supposed to be cordial with everybody around them, but they're destroying everybody. These JWO small hatters. It says the rise of Palestinian Arab nationalism, coupled with the rapid growth of Palestine's smaller Jewish population, especially after the advent of Nazism in the 1930s, saw an escalation in Arab-Jewish violence in Palestine. Britain handed the problem to the United Nations, which in 1947 proposed partitioning Palestine into 2 states. See, and so that's what they think is going to bring their peace, right? But this dude, he's not satisfied. Just like Habakkuk says, they're not satisfied with death. They love blood. They continue to pursue blood and try to heap onto them all nations and people and lands. It says one Jewish, one Arab, with the Jerusalem Bethlehem area to become an international city. The plan was accepted by Palestine's Jewish leadership but rejected by Arab leaders. So these 1948ers, they wasn't here. The Arab people, the Palestinians was here, and then they moved over here, and then they set up this Balfour Declaration and made it a state, which they got carved out here now. But this is not even a borderline. Israel really has no borders. It's all stolen territory and lies. I got that right here. Let me see. This is what these are. Play that. Armistice, an agreement made by opposing sides in a war to stop fighting for a certain time, a truce. Yo, These people have armistice lines still set up. It says the Jewish leadership in Palestine declared the establishment of the state of Israel on, May 14, 1948, the moment the British mandate terminated. So the British mandate terminated, and these devils just was like, okay, well, yeah, we established the state of Israel, through though without announcing its borders. They didn't announce no borders. They don't have no borders. These are armistice lines, just a period of a truce lines. It says the following day, Israel was invaded by 5 Arab armies, marking the start of Israel's War of Independence. Because remember, it was made a state by America. So now they need to be independent. It says because basically it took some people's land and declared something because of a piece of paper, the Balfour Declaration. So the nations around them, the Palestinians, the Arab nations, they fought. It says the fighting ended in 1949 with a series of ceasefires, producing armistice lines along Israel's frontiers with neighboring states. That's what these are. Armistice lines. See, you see these? This is a border. These are borders. This not a border. It says it's an armistice line. And creating the boundaries of what became known as the Gaza Strip, occupied by Egypt, and East Jerusalem and the West Bank occupied by Jordan. Right. So this is the 1949 lines. Now this is the 1967, what the dude mentioned. It says the surrounding Arab states refused to recognize Israel, meaning its borders remain unset. And that's to this date. So the borders are unset. These nations still do not recognize Israel. What they recognize is a two-state plan. Because remember, Israel declared themselves a state with America, the help of America, just, and started going to war with people around them. And they've been doing that since the beginning, since they got there. It says, so we got these armistice lines here, no borders at all, right? Because first of all of this is ours anyway, they made this little area right here, It says the biggest change to Israel frontiers came in 1967 when the conflict known as the Six-Day War left Israel and occupation of the Sinai Peninsula, the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and most of the Syrian Golan Heights, effectively tripling the size of territory under Israel control. Israel effectively annexed East Jerusalem, claiming the whole of the city as its capital in the Golan Heights. These moves were not recognized by the international community, right? That's why they're still to this day talking about in 2025, we're going to figure this out. It says these moves were not recognized by the international community until the U.S. changed its official position on the matter under the Trump administration, becoming the first major power to do so. Overwhelmingly, international opinion continues to consider East Jerusalem and the Golan Heights as occupied territory, meaning they ain't supposed to be there. And now, here in 2025, they're occupying a whole bunch of Syria, right? Let me see. So I mean, that's the point. They don't have actual borders. They're there illegally, right? And now they're trying to do the look at this. Because they made themselves a state, right? They made themselves a state and they went to war and they started occupying these areas, right? Illegally. So anyway, this was the original 1947 partition plan that they did not agree to. So anyway, I was looking at this. Yeah, this is the land of Israel promised to Abraham, right? This is all our land, all this area right here, not just this little spot right here. And this is somewhat going into Israel's 2030 agenda, which I'm gonna go study some more of this. Which it ain't really nothing to study. It's just the promised land that was given to us. But I'm gonna go over it a little bit more, right? Because I was looking at this and then I thought about it. Like, hold up. So anyway, yeah. So Israel don't have borders. They're there illegally. Now listen to some more of this guy over here.
The United Nations, by an overwhelming majority, 95% of the world's population, has called for there to be a state of Palestine. There is a high-level meeting at the UN, June 17 to June 20, to implement the two-state solution. More than 180 countries support this. In fact, Israel does not. Okay, that's Israel's or Zionism's, this extreme Zionism's radicalism. It's reckless. It's illegal. It has led Israel into making horrific war crimes to try to defend an indefensible position. But
Yeah, they're at war. They've been at war since the beginning. Let me continue with this.
the point is that the world, other than Israel and other than the US veto, are essentially unanimous on the way forward. So the United States blocked it by itself last year when this issue came up in the UN Security Council. There were 12 votes for Palestine to become the 194th UN member state. There were 2 abstentions, and there was 1 veto, the United States. We blocked the peace. All President Trump needs to do is change 1 vote. And then what he does is recognize that the whole world, other than the Israel lobby, has called for 2 states, the International Court of Justice, the UN Security Council, the UN General Assembly, and this is very important for everybody to understand. So too has the Arab League, all the countries, the Arab countries of the Middle East. So too have the 57 Islamic majority countries in the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the OIC. In other words, this is not some pipe dream. We're the only blockade of this. Now you have someone from from the U.S. From the Israel Defense Ministry inside the White House in charge of policy. And my God, are we going to get peace that way, or are we going to get perpetual war? Whose foreign policy interest are we going to get?
Right. Good. That brings us right back to Jeremiah 50 and 45. Therefore, hear ye the counsel of the Lord Yahweh, that he have taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he have proposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. And that's the point. There, Israel has taken over America's government, and they're there and, calling the shots, basically. So that's a lot. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 8. It says, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. Right. So basically, America is going to be on the way out because Israel, is dragging out America to this Third World War, and ultimately they're going to be destroyed. And then we take the kingdom. But this, prophesying against them, Ezekiel 36:1, it says, also thou son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel, and say, the mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord Yahweh. Right, and these mountains can represent, government, right? It says, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, because the enemy have said against you, aha, even the ancient high places are ours in possession. Therefore prophesy and say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashmi Awashai, because they have made you desolate and swallowed you up on every side, that ye might be a possession unto the residue of the heathen. See, so the heathen possess our lands, all of it. It says, and ye are taken up in the list of talkers and infamy of the people. Therefore, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord Yahweh. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh to the mountains, and to the hills, to the rivers, to the valleys, to the desolate wastes, and to the cities that are forsaken, which became a prey and derision to the residue of the heathen that are round about. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Bashmi Awashai, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea. See, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, right? That goes into the banking elites, also the JOOs, right? The small hatters over there in the land, right? And America is backing them. It says, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with the spiteful minds to cast out for prey. And I just said what? They proclaim this land theirs, just like that. So it's illegal. The whole world is saying what they're doing is illegal, besides for America, right? It says, prophesy and therefore concerning the land of Israel, and say unto the mountains, into the hills, into the rivers, into the valleys, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I have spoken in my jealousy and in my fury, because ye have borne the shame of the heathen. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, watch me, I have lifted up mine hand. Surely the heathen that are about you, they shall bear their shame, right? And basically that's that shameful spewing being put on the glory of these JOOs right now, right? And the heathen roundabout. And basically what? Now they're going to this thing that's happening in June 17th. Let me see what that's at. Right. June 17th, 2025. That's what the guy said. And now they're trying to make it, go ahead and do that two-state solution, right? Because they're not recognizing these devils to be anything illegitimate, right? They understand that they're illegitimate, even though none of them ain't supposed to be there, But Esau, Edom took it, for himself. So the scriptures say that. It says, verse 2, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, watch me outside, because the enemy have said against you, aha, even the ancient high places are ours in possession. See? Then you get verse 5, therefore thus saith the Lord Yahweh, watch me outside, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with the spiteful mind to cast it out for a prey. So they're going to bear their shame, and they are bearing their shame, to be found out as, not the true people. Scripture said, bastards shall dwell in Ashdod, right? What is that? Let me see if I can find that real quick. Right, that's who's over in that land, these JOOs. Yeah, that's Zechariah 9. Grab it real quick. Zechariah 9. It says, Zechariah 9:6, and a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, and I will cut off the pride of the Philistines. It says, foreigners will occupy the city of Ashdod. I will destroy the pride of the Philistines. And that's what they're doing. That's what they're talking about. Occupy Israel, land occupied by Israel in 1967. They're occupying that land, right? Just like the scripture said they would. And there's a bastard, right? Not a illegitimate child is there. Esau, Edom, Jacob's brother, right? Took the land. So that's pretty much the point. Let me get this. This is Ezekiel 35. In verse 1, it's a prophecy against Mount Seir, which is Esau, Edom, to be utterly destroyed. And you can precept this with Jeremiah 50. This is Ezekiel 35:1. It says, moreover, the word of the Lord Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir and prophesy against it. It said unto it, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out mine hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. Right? You get Obadiah. Starting from verse 1. Says, I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I'm the Lord Yahweh, watch me outside, right? And that's going to what? Basically, these JOOs that took the land is going to bring out Babylon the Great to World War III with them, and their land, America, will be destroyed completely. It says, I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord Yahweh, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end, right? And even to this day, we're in time now where pretty much we're finishing up our judgment. And Esau, Edom is still pursuing us, killing us, setting snares and traps for us, so that we commit sins. It's going into what? Lamentations 4, around verse 20. I'll grab it real quick. says 21, Lamentations 4:21, rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee, thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked. Verse 22, it says, the punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. So it's talking about the Israelites. It says, he will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sin. So now it's time for judgment to fall upon Esau, Edom. And that's the time we're living in. 2025, the hopeful year of, Jacob's deliverance and Esau's, destruction. Ezekiel 35:6, therefore, as I live, said the Lord Yahweh Bashmi Shai, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. See, that goes into that Habakkuk that I got earlier, the Habakkuk 2, where he's not satisfied with that. I don't know if I got it. I think I did. I'm reading right now. Because this also goes into those people with this meeting that they about to have. They're sick and tired of being sick and tired. Habakkuk 2:5, it says, yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell, and is as death. He cannot be satisfied. See? He's as death, he cannot be satisfied. He's going to continue to kill. It says, but gathers unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. It says, shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long, and to him that let himself a thick clay. And they're, we'll see what happens, because like I said, they're talking about this greater Israel, where they're trying to take more land. They already took most of some of Syria. That's why you have now Turkey, entering and trying to, basically put a stop to it. And basically they're all being gathered for war. For World War III, right? Pursuant to what? Isaiah 34. So these nations are saying how long, Joel 3 says, let the weak say I'm strong. They're preparing, they're rising up against these devils. So verse 7 says, thus will I make Mount Seir most desolate and cut off from it him that passes out and him that returneth, right? It'll be completely obliterated, never inhabited again. It says, and I will fill his mountains with his slain men, in thy hills, in thy valleys, in all thy rivers shall they fall that are slain with the sword. Right. And in all thy rivers shall they fall that are slain with the sword. It says, I will make thee perpetual desolations, and thy city shall not return, and ye shall know that I am the Lord of Yahweh Bashmi Shai. Because thou hast said, these two nations and these two countries shall be mine, and we will possess it, whereas the Lord was there. Right. And, this is talking about the Israelites, right? Judah and Ephraim, but also the land. NLT says, for you said the lands of Israel and Judah will be ours. We will take possession of them. What do we care that the Lord Yahweh Bashmi Shai is there, right? Sack the temple, all of that stuff. Now you got the land of Israel right now, right? You're trying to make it a greater Israel. You about to go to war about it. Because that's what they're doing, trying to, solidify their position over there in that area, and they don't belong there, right? They're trying to keep the lie going. It says, therefore, as I live, said the Lord, Yahweh Bashmi Shai will even do according to thine anger and according to thine envy, which thou hast used out of thy hatred against them. I will make myself known among them when I have judged thee. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord Yahweh Bashmi Shai, and that I have heard all thy blasphemies which thou hast spoken against the mountains of Israel, saying, they are laid desolate, they are given us to consume. See? So they went over there and took that land. That's why that man is being revealed, and shameful spewing is being put on them. Let's grab this. That what is it? 2 Thessalonians 2. Man of lawlessness, he's been revealed. That's Esau Edom. 2 Thessalonians 2:1, it says, now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Yahweh Shai, and by the gathering together unto him, that ye be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter as from us, as that the day of Yahweh Shai is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Right? So we will fall away from who we were, right? Discontinue from our heritage, and then what? Esau Edom will be revealed to be the son of perdition. right? The son of destruction, to be the wicked. Scriptures say the earth was given into the hand of the wicked, and Esau, Edom is ruling that. And just like this dude pointed out in the video, the only person that stopped the two-state solution was what? America. And somehow it just worked. America said, nope, we're not doing it. And they said, okay, right? But now we're in a time where the nations are saying how long, you know? It says, right, verse 4 says, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God, right? The temple of God, where's that? In the land. Who has the land? The devil. Esau, Edom, right? So, it says, verse 13, thus with your mouth ye have boasted against me, and have multiplied your words against me. I have heard them. It says, thus is the Lord Yahweh Shai, when the whole earth rejoices, I will make thee desolate. As thou didst rejoice at the inheritance of the house of Israel, because it was desolate, so will I do unto thee. Thou shalt be desolate, O Mount Seir, and all Idumea, even all of it. And they shall know that I'm the Lord Yahweh Shai. Right? So that's pretty much been it. This is all our land. Right? These heathen are roaming about in it, fighting over it, skirmishing, or whatnot. Anyway, Lord willing, you're edified from the video. I'll say shalom. It says over for the elect, which consists of men, women, and children, shalom.